All right, hi everybody. I know you're seeing a new face here. My name is Heather Dopson, and I am a community builder at GoDaddy. I've been with GoDaddy for just a few weeks, and you may be accustomed to seeing Colby's face on these Hangouts. Colby has moved along to a great new position that he loves with a golf company in Arizona, and I'll be taking over the Hangouts and working with everybody, including Joe, moving forward on all the Hangouts. So hi, it's nice to meet everybody. So today we've got learning the basics of buying expired domains, and Joe is going to take it over, and I'll be here to monitor questions. So if you have any questions, be sure to type them in, and I'll ask Joe at the end of the session. All right, Joe, you want to take it over?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction. Hi, everybody, and welcome to On the Dot. Today we're going to be talking about expired domains and how they work at GoDaddy. So if you want to buy a name and it's expired and you want to know how to get that name, you can come and listen to this or watch it live. We'll archive it on YouTube as well and share it with your friends who are interested, because it's a pretty exciting thing to get a name that you've been waiting for a long time, whether it's for your small business or if you want to use it as an investment for the future to be able to sell to other small businesses to use. So we're going to cover some basics today. We're not going to get into a lot of the in-depth things, but I will have time at the end for questions if anybody wants to ask a question at the end, or during the time you can type in your questions and we will answer them when we are done with the presentation. So if I don't cover anything, let me know. Today we're going to cover specifically what is an expired name, how they go to auctions, the timeline so you can understand when names expire in general, and how they work at GoDaddy, when they're loaded into our auction system, and if you win, when you're awarded those names, so when do you actually get them in your account if you win, and why bidding with us on expired names makes good business sense. We're also going to briefly cover a new app that we've launched this year called the Investor app, and that's a companion app for the auctions, and it makes things a lot better for you. If you want to bid on auctions, you use your computer and then you have the app to be able to take around with you and get notified of anything that's really important to you. If a name changes the bids and you're outbid, you can get a push notification, things like that that are really important. So we're going to start by talking through what the life cycle is for the name. So how does a name actually expire? This is the general life cycle, and we're going to talk mainly today about .coms. A lot of the other TLDs follow the same life cycle as a com, but there are many that don't. So that could be its own hangout. In fact, there was a domain Sherpa for about over an hour that just covered the .com life cycle and catching names, drop catching names. We don't have time for that today, so we're going to go briefly. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But just be aware that some of the CC TLDs, the country code TLDs, may have a different type of life cycle than what we're going to cover here. So this is mainly for comms, and most of the new GTLDs that are coming out follow this similar life cycle. So what happens is, on the left, you can see that the name's available for registration. So this is just, could be 1988, or it could be 2008. Whenever somebody first registered the name, somebody buys the name and then it's registered. And you can register it for up to 10 years on a .com, and then you can continue to renew that as long as you want. At some point, though, if people fail to renew the name, it goes to expired, which is the next little the rectangle there.
Hey, Joe, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but we're not able to see your screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Try it again. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me try and do the screen share again and see if it picks up.
Don't you just love technical difficulties?
Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right. Okay, sorry about that. So after it goes to the expired status, we still have time to renew the name as the domain owner. So
Actually, your screen went away again. It's you. I can see you, but I can't see your screen.
okay, I have an idea. Can you see my screen now?
No.
What about now?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to leave it like this because I think once I start the presentation, it stops
Okay.
sharing it. So I will let everybody see what the note screens look like. So when you have an expired name, we still have the opportunity to renew it. You know, if you forget to renew it, if you're sick, if you know, your credit card's expired, we want to have options for people to be able to renew their names after they expire. We want to give them a little bit of time. Now, there's a grace period, which we'll go over GoDaddy specific grace period in a little bit. But it's just important to know that there's a grace period after a name expires for people to be able to renew their name. Once that grace period is over, it goes to something called redemption. And redemption is a different type of grace period, and it allows people to get the name back, but there's a penalty associated with that. There's a higher fee that we're charged from the company that owns the name, the registrar. Excuse me, the registrar is charged the fee by the registry. So in a comms case, it would be VeriSign that charges a redemption fee. You can pay that redemption fee. It's a lot more than the regular renewal price and still get your name back. If at that point you do not pay your redemption fee, then the name goes through what's called pending delete. It's a 5-day status where basically it's getting deleted. There's nothing you can do. You can't renew it. It's a very, you know, like once in a million shot that you're going to see somebody get a name back after it hits pending delete status. It's probably actually much higher than 1 in a million. So pretty much it's gone once it hits pending delete, but there's a 5-day window, and then that name drops back to be released to the public again. Now, in between the expired period of that rectangle and the redemption period, there's a time where you can buy those names when they expire on our auction. And I'll show you, this is our GoDaddy specific life cycle for a .com. So this would be the expiration, day 1 of expiration. We tried to renew the name. If it isn't renewed, auto renew fails, somebody doesn't have their name set up to auto renew, the credit card can't get billed, whatever the case may be, then we try again on day 5. If we still can't renew the name, we try again on day 12. If after that we can't renew the name, then it goes to the redemption period that I talked about, and there's a higher fee, so you have to pay the renewal plus the $80 redemption fee is what we charge. And you still have the right to renew your name as the original registrant. Now, at this time, we've already contacted the people somewhere around 9 times who let their names expire. So we're pretty sure by day 26 that they don't want to renew the name. And at that point, we load it into our auctions, our expired domain name auctions. On the 26th day after expiration, most names are loaded to our auction. We run a 10-day auction on the expired domain, and that ends on day 36. So if there's a winning bidder before that ends on day 36, when the auction's over and somebody bid, then they're awarded that name. Or if there's no bidders, but somebody has a back order placed on the name through GoDaddy, then that back order will count as a bid, and that will also award you the name. So day 36, after the 10-day auction runs, the winning bidder or the person who placed the first back order on the name, if there's no other bidders, will be awarded that name. If nobody bid and there were no back orders on it, then it goes to something called our closeout auctions, and that runs for 5 days, from day 36 to day 41. And that's a Dutch auction. So what it does is it starts with a buy now price. And it's going to start with a buy now price of $11 on day 36. And it's going to drop $1 a day unless somebody buys it with the buy now price. So it'll go 11, 10, 9, 8, and then it'll drop from $8 to $5 on the final day. So you can go and purchase that name with a buy now if nobody won it in the first 10 days. And you can buy it anytime during those next 5 days from day 36 to 41 as a buy now, and you'll be the winner. However, the person who originally owned the name can renew that name up until day 42. So they have 42 days after expiration to renew their name. If you won the auction or the Dutch auction and you paid, we will automatically refund you the money. But as I said, we've told people about 9 times before we even start the auction, so most of the names that go to our auction are not renewed. There are some that people realize at the last minute and they'll renew those names before day 42. That'll cancel the auction out and you'll get an automatic refund and an email explaining that that happened. But as I said, it's pretty rare. If nobody renews the name and you're the winner of either the Dutch auction with the buy now, or you won on that first 10-day auction, you were the highest bidder, then on day 43 after the name expired, you'll see that name pop into your account at GoDaddy. So that is the basics of how the life cycle works in general of a domain name when it expires, and how GoDaddy specific auctions work. Now, if nobody bid on the name on the auctions from the first 10-day and nobody won with the buy now and the Dutch auctions, on day 43 it's going to go back to this red arrow status where it's going to stay in redemption until it goes to pending delete. So it's going to be about 30 days after the 42nd day after expiration. It's going to stay in that grace period, and then it's going to be another 5 days before it's actually dropped out. So if you wanted a name at GoDaddy, you didn't realize that it was in our expiry auction until it was done and all the auctions were over, you can still back order the name with us or with another company and try and grab that name when it's released again on that right-hand cloud where it's released for available. As soon as it's released for available, with VeriSign, they release it to be caught by back orders before it's available for the public to register again. So you really want to put in a back order. And we've had a lot of questions about back orders before this Hangout, which Heather has a link that she can share. And it's going to show you all about back orders. It's a Hangout that we did. It's about an hour long because back orders are a much longer conversation than we can cover in this Hangout alone. So there's a separate Hangout we've done. There's a link to it that we can share if you have questions about how back orders work.
Yep, and I put that link already in the comment section of this Hangout.
All right, great. And if anybody has any other questions after watching that, feel free to get in touch. I have my email address at the end, and you can also post in the comments here or when we archive it on YouTube, and I'll get back to you. So now you know when they go to auction. Now we're going to look at what the auction is and kind of how it works. If you go to auctions.godaddy.com, which hopefully you can see if we can, hopefully you can see a little bit better here. You'll be able to see this screen. And this screen shows all of our auctions. Right now, we're only going to cover expired names, which are names that customers at GoDaddy let expire and didn't renew. But we also have many other auctions that we cover on the auctions type, or on the auctions side. And the types are, member to member. So it could be you trying to sell your name to somebody else, or it could be an expired name, or it could be a name that was repossessed for fraud or some kind of problem, and we sell those at a later time if we can't work things out with the original registrant. So we have a couple different types of auctions that go at GoDaddy. Today we're only going to cover expired. If you have questions about the other ones, let me know and I'll be happy to answer. So what you want to do is you want to go down to the popular searches, scroll down and pick expiring, and that'll just pop up all the expired auctions. Now, there's millions of names that expire at GoDaddy in the course of a year, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to narrow that down by using our advanced search tool. And advanced search is going to give you a lot more options. So you can really start to pick what specific names are you interested in and narrow it down from the couple 100,000 that might be on there at any given day of expired names to a manageable list that you can work through and try and sort through to find the names that you want. I'm going to give you some tips on what to do in a little bit to narrow it down, but just be aware that you really want to use the advanced search feature. So this is what you want to choose when you're looking at advanced search. You want to make sure that you choose the type of expiring if you're looking at expiring. Closeout is what we call the Dutch auction. So that is the buy now, the ones that made it through the first 10 days with no bids, and they're now available at $11 to $5. So if you wanted to choose those, you could choose closeout, and that will show you the ones that are available for buy now. If you want to see what ones are in the first 10 days, you want to choose this expiring auctions option. You can choose keywords. So if there's a specific keyword you want to look for, like insurance, you can pick exact match. You want to have insurance in there, or you could have contains or begins or other things that you might want to use to narrow it down. And you can also sort by many other things, such as characters or price. One thing that's important, I think, to narrow it down would be domain age. Usually, just generally speaking, the older the name, the better it is. So a lot of the good names were taken a long time ago. Doesn't mean that there's not good names that are available today. It's just, in general, an older name is usually better than a newer name. So using domain age and setting a minimum age will help you to be able to narrow down that list a little bit more. And then you can narrow down by TLD. So if you're interested in looking for just a .in, or you want to find a .net or a .com, or you want to find 10 of the new GTLDs that you're really interested in, you can check those off here, and you can do a search. Now on the new GTLDs, we're not selling them on the expired auctions for the most part. So what you're going to be mostly interested in are these popular ones that are black and bold: com, org, US, net, co, biz. Those are ones that people mainly check. So you check a box next to each thing that's important for you to narrow down. Maybe you just want to find out what auctions are ending in the next day or two to further narrow down the list. You check that, and then you hit run search. And it's going to come back with a big list of names that you can then filter through. It's important for you to be signed into the auction when you're running any kind of search, because if you're signed into your GoDaddy account on the auctions, when the search results come back, on the top right, there is a little Excel icon. It's hard to miss. Unless you know it's there, it's going to be right above and on the right of the search results that come back. You can click Excel if you're signed in, and it'll download that entire list, so you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll through all the different things on the website. And you can just then use Excel to quickly sort what you're looking for. So that brings us to our next point, which is, now that you know how to find the names, what kind of names are you looking for? What are the good names to find on the auction? Well, there's really no easy answer for that. It's going to be a lot of hard work. If you're looking for names to resell, not only are you going to have to sort through a lot of names on the auction, but you're also competing against other people that are also interested in trying to find good names. So I want to emphasize that there are great names on our auction every day, and there are great values on those names. I see names that sell at prices that I'm surprised at every day, even with the competition that we have that's on the auction. Even with the amount of names that we sell, I still see a lot of bargains that are out there. But you're going to have to dig through the list and take a look at it to really get to the bottom of, what names do you think are going to be valuable for you, and what names do you think you can resell. I'm going to give you some quick tips, though, that you can use to try and help you, narrow down what names you should really try and focus in on. When you're looking in to buy things in the aftermarket, just generally speaking, you want to avoid some things. Trademarks, we have a trademark filter, so there aren't many trademarks that are going to be in our expired auction anyway. We try and get rid of them all, but just be extra safe and try and make sure that you're not going to infringe on anybody's trademark, and that you're not going after somebody's trademark if it might be a typo. We try and catch those too. But at the end of the day, you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you might potentially be infringing on somebody's intellectual property. So stay away from anything such as typos, domain squatting. There's a lot of ways to make money that are legitimate, that are great names that are available. Like I said, you don't need to do things like look for squatting opportunities or typos. You want to stay away from those. Another thing that's really important is to stay away from things that people won't buy. I think a lot of times people look at names and they go, man, this is the greatest name in the world. I can't believe that it's available and nobody wanted to buy this name and I could pick it up for $5. Well, there might be a reason why nobody bought the name, and you should think about that before you buy it, because you're going to have to resell this name if you want to make a profit. So really think things through. Put yourself in somebody else's situation that you might want to sell it to, and ask people that that aren't very internet savvy or friends that you might have, or parents or relatives, and say, hey, would you buy a name like this for a business? And if they say yes, and it makes sense to them, and they're not very internet savvy, then you're probably onto something. You can start to narrow it down. If they say no, this doesn't make sense, or you have to do a lot of explaining to them about why it makes sense, then it's going to be a harder name to sell to anyone else. So I think those are good things to use as a rule of thumb. And I think it's always best to start safe. Go after names that you really understand and know that you can sell. And then from there, once you're making some money, then you can try and be a little more risky or get a little more creative. So for example, I think it's really important to stay in your niche. Everybody usually understands something, either a hobby or the line of business that they're in, or whatever it is that they spend a lot of their own time on. You really understand that little niche. If it's cooking, or if it's landscaping, or if it's computers and tech, you're going to understand something really well. And it's going to be easier for you to spot a valuable name in that vertical than it would be for you to say, go buy something on weightlifting if you never work out. Oh, this is great. This sounds like a great name. And you buy it thinking that it's great, but all the people that are in weightlifting use another term, and you just wasted your money. So start safe with things that you know. What you should buy are things, like I said, that are aged. Usually the older the name, the better. So that will help you, at least at first, to start to narrow things down. You want to look at things that are generic. So weightlifting.com would be a great example of a generic name. It's really generic. It can be used for a lot of different things. So can weight.com. Weight can be used for many things, including maybe the diet brand, or also it could be a scale, or it could be weightlifting. It could be a lot. So the more generic a name, the better it's going to be, because you're going to have more opportunities to sell for buyers. You want to look at what other TLDs are taken, and I'll show you that a little bit on the next slide to explain that a little more. And old businesses. What I mean by that is, let's say somebody's going out of business and they just don't care about their name anymore. Well, that name might have traffic that's still valuable, or it might be that somebody started a name on that domain. They started a business a long time ago, and there's many other people that have started businesses since then that could never get that name because it was never available for sale. The original business owner had that name. So now they're starting businesses with names that are not as good. So for example, I might have a name like Santa Monica Vision, I think is one of the names I picked up. And that's a great town. It's got a lot of money, and there's a lot of different vision places that are there, either optometrists or places that sell glasses. And there's a lot of places that use that term. It's something similar that I looked up. And all these businesses started with similar things. It's generic, it's a geo name, it's a city, and it's also specific to a certain industry with your eyes. And a lot of people want something that's easy to remember. So when you look around, you see, okay, this old business went out of business and they just dropped their name. It might be a good opportunity for you to pick up, because there's going to be other businesses that come along in the future that are going to be looking for that same type of thing. So not necessarily to sell to the old business itself, but just to know that there's that demand. There was a demand for it before, there's a demand around it and now, and that there'll probably be one in the future. So those are some tips around what you should buy. And when I say the TLDs, I picked a couple of names off of our expired auction last week. One was fiestapizza.com and the other was teatcleaner.com. And a quick way to check is to go to domain tools, or you can go to some of the other Whois providers that are out there, and you can take a look and see how many other names, exact match, are registered in different TLDs. So this, I like domain tools because it's a quick, easy look. You can tell, was this name ever registered? Is it registered now? Or was it always available and never registered? If it's a lot of green, then you're looking at something that probably doesn't have a lot of resale value. It's not always true, but it's a good indicator that nobody else really cares enough to buy these other TLDs. There's not a lot of end users that are really concerned enough to buy these names. Nobody's even owned fiestapizza.org info or US at any time. There's a good chance, although I'm not certain, you could dig more in the Whois, that fiestapizza.com is the same owner as fiestapizza.net and possibly .biz. So if that's true, then you're looking at an even worse name that you to buy, because fiestapizza.com, if the owner of that is the same as net and biz, that means there's really only one person in the world who ever thought this name was important enough to register, right? And he's dropping it now because it's available on our expired names. So who else is going to buy this? Not that many people. If you look at teacleaner.com, that's a great generic name. Teeth cleaner is actually a product. I looked it up on Amazon and some other things where they sell it. It's pretty widely sold, and they actually call it teeth cleaner. It cleans wood. But you can see that it's not a huge demand because there was net and org. We don't know who owned that. You could dig into the Whois a little bit and look at the Whois history and see if it was the same person who owned the com. And you can look at archive.org, which you put down there underneath these. Take a look at what the website used to look at and see, was it a different owner or not? Did they sell things on it before? But the fact that nobody's picked it up since it dropped and it's available for registration really shows me that there's not that many people that want to buy this name. And also, there's the info biz in US that were never registered. That doesn't mean a lot, but it is a good indicator of popularity. So, like I said, you want to take everything with a grain of salt, but the more things you can start to piece together, the better idea you'll have if a name is valuable or not. We did a whole hangout on how to value domain names, and we had a couple of industry experts that talked about it. So if you want to get more information on really how to value names, then you'd have to watch it. It's a very long topic and not something we can get into, but at least this will give you an idea of, when I'm looking at a name that's expiring, what are some key things that I should try and consider before I pull the trigger and actually make a purchase. Another thing you could check is just a general Google search. You could search for Fiesta Pizza. How many businesses are called that? Not, like I said, because you don't want to squat on somebody's business that's there, but just how many people think along those same lines. Fiesta Pizza is a pretty generic term. How many people have thought about starting a business using Fiesta Pizza as the business name or as an important part of their business? If it's a lot of people, people usually tend to think the same and think alike. So if there's a lot of people that have already thought of the name, there's going to be people that want to come into the business that are going to think along those same lines, and it'd be a good potential sale. The way you could find that is by looking in Google and saying, okay, yeah, there's a lot of people that might be interested in this. The other thing that you might want to look at too is who owns the other TLDs. Like I said, briefly, you want to look and see, are they owned by the same person? If the same person owns all these TLDs, that just because they're taken doesn't necessarily mean that it's an important name to buy. But the other thing that's an important consideration I think sometimes people overlook is if other investors own the names. There's some big investors that own a lot of names, so it's easy to start to learn who the investors are. And you can also go see, do they have a park page up that says it's for sale? What does it look like? You can usually tell if another investor owns a name. So if all these TLDs are taken in Fiesta Pizza, let's just, for example, the org, the info, the biz, they're all taken, and you look at them and they're all taken by other investors, and you look at how long they've been registered. If they've been registered for a while, and they've been registered for a while by other investors, typically that points to the fact that somebody, excuse me, that somebody didn't make an offer to any of the other investors, or the offer wasn't good enough. So these investors are holding these names. Why do you want to pick one up so you can just be another person to hold the name too? So that's some of the things you want to consider when you look at how many TLDs are taken and who owns it. So now you know kind of how the auctions work and when the names expire. You also have an idea of what names you should start to narrow things down for and start to look for. When you actually place your bid, it's great to use our app, and I'll explain why. One of the things that you want to watch out for when you're bidding is, snipers, which means somebody who comes at the very last minute to bid. We see a lot of activity on names that are expiring, getting bid activity right at the last minute. So when somebody's coming and they want to place a bid on a name at the last minute, unless you're sitting right in front of your computer, you're not going to know you're outbid until it's too late. We do an auto extend on the auction for 5 minutes, but usually by the time you get an email or you log back into your computer, it's too late. If you have our investor app, which you can download from Google Play or from the App Store, you'll be able to get a push notification to your phone, let you know that you were outbid, and instantly bid right from there. You can also keep a close eye on names that you're watching, so you know what's on your watching list, and you can further narrow it down on the app to favorites. So this guy's got 540 names that he's watching, but 34 of them are his favorites. So if there's names that you're really interested in, you can mark them as favorites and just quickly keep an eye on what are the bids at and if you're winning or losing and what's happening. You can also see any of the names that you're bidding on through the app and do similar things. You can set favorites on them. You can see that by the left-hand side. You see a little heart icon. That means it's a favorite. And the cool example.info has an exclamation point in yellow because it's ending very soon, 6 minutes and 12 seconds. So you can quickly see all your activity that you had on the computer on your phone. And that way you're not tied to the computer, because if people start to have a bidding war at the end and it extends 5 minutes and another 5 minutes and another 5 minutes, you don't have to stay at your computer. You can be wherever you are and just get a push notification. Oh, I was outbid again. Let me do a quick bid again. And then go on with what you're doing if you're out with your family or friends or whatever you want. So the app, what it does is it allows you to kind of extend your participation in auctions, in expired auctions that you're already involved in. So you need to go to your computer first, and you need to go either watch or bid on names from your computer logged in at auctions.godaddy.com. Once you do that, all those names will transfer over to the app. You can't search for new names currently on the app. We're going to add that at some point in the future, but right now it's just a companion to the desktop. So you need to start by looking at the desktop, go through your advanced search, watch your names and bid on them, and then from there you can take anything with you on the go with the app. We have some plans in the future. Our next rollout that will be coming in the next few months is to be able to buy those closeout names at Dutch auctions, and to be able to check out any names that you've won through the expired auction and be able to check that out through the app itself rather than having to go back on the computer and pay for them. Those will be some of the next big things that we're working on. But right now, the app only works for expired names, and it only allows you to bid or watch things that you've already watched or bid on your computer. So I hope that clears things up. But it is a great tool because once you place your bid, or there's some names that are really important to you, you can go take your phone with you and go about your day. And I really like the push notification so that if I'm out and I get outbid, I get notified instantly, which is an awesome feature. So this shows you a couple more screens, what it looks like if you're bidding. You can quickly see on the bidding screen if you were outbid, which is nice, what you're winning and all the names. And also you can see quickly at a glance when the names are over. So, you know, the top one is going to sort by time left, which is really helpful when you're trying to figure things out. I have my email address here. You can email me directly for any questions that you have, or if you want to learn more. And you can also post any questions that you have on the Google Hangout page or the YouTube page, and I will answer them. And right before we open it up for questions now, I just want to let you know that if you're an advanced user, you know, somebody who's really wants to be a power user, we have other options for you to be able to search through the auctions. We have an API, so we can give you information on how to access the API to see our expired names. And there's also daily FTP lists that you could download to get all the names that are expired and then run your own algorithm through them. So we have some other advanced options that you know, I didn't want to cover since this is kind of the basic introduction, but if you have questions about those or anything else that you might want, you know, feel free to reach out to us and we can help you. So without further ado, I'd like to open it up to any questions that we have.
All right, Joe. So we've had a couple of questions come in. So the first question is, are these domains only the ones that expired under GoDaddy.com?
Yes, they are. The names that we sell are our expired names.
Okay, great. And Ron Q would like to know, is there a way to download more than 40K?
The way that I'm assuming it means to do the search, the way that you'd have to do that is through our API. You can go through the API and grab everything. We also have the FTP. So if you're on our auctions page, auctions.godaddy.com, you sign in, and there's a section on the top right that's for tools. And in that drop down, it'll give you the FTP link, and you can go right to that link and download it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you have questions, let me know, but it says expired names, and it'll tell you, what file right there.
Okay, great.
There's no effort if you use that link. It'll just log in, click the FTP. If you need API information, send me an email, and we'll send you out the document that you need to get the API hooked up.
Okay, perfect. So Ron, hopefully that answers your question. And we have a trademark question from Sanket. What if the trademark is a generic English word? Should we buy that name?
I can't really give you good legal advice, or I'll get in trouble since I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. So what I would say is, honestly, you should contact an attorney. I can't give you good advice on what names are trademarks or not. I'd just say, factor that into your choice. If you think there's going to be a risk of any kind of trademark lawsuit as a result of buying a name, it's probably better to stay clear from buying that name as a general rule.
Okay, great. Yeah, I always like to say I am not an attorney. I am not an accountant. You should probably check with one of those.
Right.
And Scott would like to know, where do you check the popularity of a domain?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, so if you could clarify a little bit, that would help.
Sure. So this question came in when you were showing one of your slides where you were actually looking at the popularity of a domain.
On the Whois?
Yes.
That I checked. I took those screen captures from domaintools.com, and that's a Whois site. So it's domain tools, and if you look on their Whois, it will show you what TLDs are taken. But there's several other Whois providers out there that will also show you the same information. Or if you don't know how to do it, you can just go look, on a regular Who, like who.godaddy.com, and just check, each name. So you could check fiestapizza.com, .net, .org one at a time if you don't know the other tools, if you can't find them. But there are a couple, and Domain Tools is the one that I use.
Okay, great. So far, that's the only questions we've had. So if you have more questions to ask Joe live, now is your opportunity to do so. Joe, are there people who buy expired domains, buy and resell expired domains strictly as their sole business, or do you see it as more of something as a side income?
There's both. I think it's really a good opportunity for people to start out, because you're not looking at that much money that you have to invest at the beginning. A lot of names, like I said, you could buy on the closeouts for $20 or less, and similar, on the expired, even if you pay $25, $30 for a lot of names plus the renewal, you're in for less than $50 a name. The ability to be able to invest at that low of an entry cost is great, because you really don't have the same type of opportunity. Even if I were to buy a low-cost stock, I still have to pay some kind of fee to the brokerage house to buy the stock in and out. And then I have to wait for that to appreciate. If I'm buying real estate, $50 isn't going to get me anywhere. So you really have a good low barrier to entry. So anyone can start on the side and kind of learn. I suggest you start small and try and figure out what names sell and what don't before you start to spend a lot of your money and make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes at the beginning. So try and start small and figure out what names are actually worth money and what names sell. And then from there, we've seen people that have grown to make tens of millions of dollars just from buying expired names, and that's without exaggeration. So you can grow it as big as you want, and also there's opportunities for a new investor to come in.
Wow, that's incredible. We've had a couple more questions. What about domains that are expired through other registrants?
Domains that are expired through other registrars, you're going to have to go to their auction house first. Most names that are expired in another company um, go through a different auction system before they're dropped out to the general public. So if you think back to the first slide or the second slide that I showed you, it had those arrows, the red arrows where they drop out to the public. Usually they don't get to those red arrows. They go to another auction house. One of the big ones is NameJet. So namejet.com sells a lot of expired inventory from other companies such as Network Solutions or register.com. There are some companies that don't. So that in and of itself is it's a much bigger question to answer, and it's also answered in more in depth in the Hangout that we did on back orders that Heather posted a link to. But you just need to know, generally speaking, that those names will normally go to another auction house that they're affiliated with, and only if people don't buy them at that auction will they drop out to the public where you would use a back order to capture it.
All right, great. So Tulasi has some concerns about the high percentage of Google domains from GoDaddy auctions that are penalized by Google and spammed. And so he's wondering if there are improvements to the domains from the auctions.
What we do is we sell names that expire from our customer base. So we don't make any warranties on what the people did before the name expired. We don't know if they used them nefariously or not. Most names aren't. We have our customer base is mainly small business owners. That's the largest, customer base that we have, and that's our main focus. So most people are legitimate business owners, and they're not using the names in a bad way. You have to do your homework on any name you buy to make sure that it's not sandboxed by Google or fail listed, which means that I can't earn parking revenue from Google because somebody's done something bad to try and break Google's terms of service on how I get paid when people click on the ads that are put on my name when I park it. There are sites that you can check. Namepros.com is a great forum, and they answer a lot of questions, general questions in there, and they have a couple fail list checkers. They have a thread that talks about different fail list checkers that you can check. So there's public. I don't know off the top of my head, or I'd tell you which one I use. I would say they're my favorites. But there are a couple that are public and free. And I know some parking companies such as Bodis, BODIS, have a fail list checker. So you could go check before you buy the names and make sure that if that's something you're concerned about. Most people, if you're talking about buying a name on expired names, though, to flip it to an end user to be able to sell it to somebody who's going to use it for their small business, they're not concerned about the fail list status at Google because they're not going to be using AdWords on it, and they can get that out of the sandbox if they're a new owner so that they can be relisted in Google's search engine. So if somebody did something bad previously, it does take some work, but an end user can get themselves out of it by explaining things and going through the process.
All right, great. Thanks for explaining that. So Arvind Reddy says, hi, Joe, and that he hopes you're doing well. And he wonders if there's any plans for India. For example, can GoDaddy spend on attracting buyers like end user buyers, small businesses, corporate professionals, and others to the auction listing? Any focus on driving in buyers would be able to help.
Thanks. Good to hear from you, Arvind. I don't know what our total plans are, but I do know that we've realigned our marketing budget this year to focus more on some of the emerging markets rather than spending so much money in the US, specifically on things like the Super Bowl commercial. So we are spending a good deal more in other markets, including India, to drive people to GoDaddy and create more brand awareness. And that does include the aftermarket. And actually, we're talking with a couple of people right now on the aftermarket marketing side on things we can do to try and drive more people internationally to the auctions. So it is something that we're actively pursuing.
Fantastic. And Bjoy would like to know, can we subscribe to expiring domain lists with specific length containing specific words throughout the year, so that in case we miss running through the website, we still remain informed?
Yeah, there's a way to do that when you're signed in. So you sign into your GoDaddy account on the auctions, and you go to that advanced search feature and that I brought up. There is an option on the advanced search feature to save that search. And if you save the search, it will send you updated email. So it'll give you the option, when do you want to get an email on this? So you go through advanced search and you save the search as one of your favorite searches, and it'll email you if any of those keywords come up. So if you were interested in insurance names, it'll tell you that, hey, here's all the insurance names that are expiring today.
Great. So in the advanced search.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So that looks like that is all of the questions that we have.
All right. If anybody has any other questions, you know how to reach me. jstyler@godaddy.com. I'll put up at the end of my slide presentation, and also you can post in the comments.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe, for your time, and thanks for everybody for watching. It's nice to meet everybody, and I'm sure I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.